Fire Emblem. Noma. After spearheading the unification of the Milla and Duma faithful, Noma became the new sect's high priest. Despite being adored by a congregation numbering in the tens of thousands, his friends attest that he retained his playful, light-hearted nature all his life. Mycen. As the One Kingdom's new chancellor, and right-hand man to King Alm I, good Sir Mycen worked tirelessly toward the kingdom's restoration. Despite his formal standing and title, the king and queen continued to love him like a grandfather. Tatiana. Tatiana prayed that Zeke's memory would remain hazy, and the two eventually did live something of a happy life. Although the two parted at times, Zeke always returned to Tatiana's side in the end. Silk, okay. The war left Valentia with many wounded, and Silk traveled the former Rigel to heal all she could. Her exact path is difficult to trace, but anecdotes survive across the continent, telling of the countless lives she saved. Zeke. The fires of war had illuminated the dark recesses of Zeke's memory, but he loved Tatiana too much to burden her with his torturous past, so he chose to bear it in silence as they lived out their lives together. Conrad. Post-war, Conrad put down his lance and took up a quill, beginning a long career as a civil servant. Following Mycen's retirement, he became chancellor, shepherding Valentia's prosperity for years. Despite an endless chain of suitors, he remained single all his life. Forsyth. Forsyth joined the One Kingdom's Knights after the war, working hard to bring order back to the land. Time took off some of his more caustic edges, and he served many years alongside Clive as a poised and thoughtful lieutenant. Est. Successfully reunited with her sisters, Est returned home in triumph. The tales of her further exploits line the pages of Arcanea's history books. Valbar the Magnificent. Valbar joined the One Kingdom's Brotherhood of Knights at Alm's request, where he worked to train the next generation. Well loved for his open and honest nature, he spent his years happily surrounded by friends and admirers. Jenny. After falling in a most unlikely love, Jenny wed a man no one would ever expect. As for whom she married exactly, no one can say. Whenever her friends asked, she replied only with a smile and an enigmatic laugh. Luthier. Painfully aware of the inadequacy of his magic, Luthier journeyed across the sea. What he did there is unclear, but stories tell of a steady stream of angry ruffians who later came to Valentia with a bone to pick with an eccentric mage. Sonia. Sonia's search for a cure for women turned into witches took her across the land. Her trail ended in a remote region, after which she was never seen again. Rumors fly, however, that shortly thereafter, a new witch took up residence in Nui Baba's abode on Fear Mountain. Katria. Having rescued Est as planned, Katria returned home in triumph. Tales of her further exploits line the pages of Arcanea's history books. Faye. Unable to get Alm out of her mind, Faye returned to her old life in Ram Village. Eventually, she met and married a suitor who claimed he did not mind her constant pining for the new king, though her habit of vanishing without notice for days at a time continued to worry her new family. Pala, 69. Having rescued Est as planned, Pala returned home in triumph. Tales of her further exploits line the pages of Arcanea's history books. Delphia. After the war, Delphia decided to lock away her magic and pursue a wild and happy life as an ordinary woman. She found herself the perfect husband at court, but made a point to return to her village often, where she would liven things up with tales of her brother. May. May returned to Novus and resumed her work at the priory with Bowie. The two bickered endlessly before and after their wedding, while managing to raise many children during the pauses between the barbs. Both of them often remarked that they couldn't possibly be happier. Bowie. After returning to the priory on Novus, Bowie weathered a trying courtship with May until the two were wed. Children came soon and in plentiful numbers, giving the pair a host of new excuses to argue. Joy takes curious forms at times, but Bowie was a happy man indeed. Lucas. Lucas joined the One Kingdom's Brotherhood of Knights, and after retiring, founded a school where he devoted himself to his students' education. His calm, intellectual mien won him many friends, and he never longed for companionship through the rest of his days. Matilda. Matilda cast her armor aside and wed Clive. She was rarely seen in public after that, having perhaps chosen to support her husband behind the scenes instead. However, her legendary exploits as a knight are sure to live on forever in Valentian history. Clive. Clive was appointed the first captain of the One Kingdom's Brotherhood of Knights. His talent and honesty made him popular with commoners and nobles alike, and under his leadership, the knights flourished. He and his lovely wife were objects of the people's envy. Leon. Oh, perfect 100. Welcomed into the One Kingdom's Brotherhood of Knights, Leon remained at Valbar's side until an injury ended his fighting career. He then took up work as a merchant in the city market, where he lived free, happy, and dauntlessly true to himself to the last.